Hey everyone, welcome back. Now I don't know if you use Tinder, OK Cupid, Match.com, or any of the such, but perhaps these stories will make you think otherwise before meeting up with someone. I'm also doing a giveaway right now of a free sweatshirt. You get to choose between one of the two shown on the screen right now. The link will be in the description. And with that said, whether you're sitting around a campfire, on the night shift, or even laying in bed, let my voice soothe your nightmares. My phone vibrated, and I looked at it with excitement. A new message from Peter. As I read it, I could feel my cheeks getting red. Would you like to meet up on Tuesday? I made a little dance and replied immediately. I had been waiting for him to ask me since we started chatting. I know I could have just asked, but I was too shy. It was just fortunate for me that he had the guts to ask me out. Yeah, I'd love to. I wrote him back. We wrote to each other back and forth about where we would meet and what we should do. We agreed to grab a coffee and maybe have dinner if we hit it off. I called my best friend Sarah and told her all about my new date. I'm so excited, Sarah. I can't wait to meet him. I told her over the phone. She seemed a lot more skeptic than me. How long have you two been writing together? Do you know anything about him? What if he's not who he says he is? I know you're concerned that he's some crazy person, but it was also you who told me to meet someone after I broke up with Brian. So come on, I'm only doing what you told me. Besides, it's so cliché to murder someone you met online. I laughed. Yeah, I know what I said, but I didn't mean to meet someone online. I offered multiple times to go out on the weekends, but you never took me up on my offer. I promised to text you when I meet him and give you updates, so you'll know I'm alive. I chuckled. Fine. Just remember to take care of yourself and don't do anything you're not comfortable with. We said our goodbyes, and the rest of the day I spent fussing over what to wear on the date and read our old messages so I could remember what his favorite band was, his favorite movie, and how much I told him about myself. I was so nervous before our date that I couldn't even eat anything all day. I put on a fun dress. That wasn't too revealing and neither too boring. Half an hour before we were supposed to meet, I walked down to the park and started waiting on him. I kept looking at my phone and feeling the need to run away. What if he really was a psycho? Or even worse, what if we didn't have any chemistry in real life? I tried to push my concerns aside when I saw a man about my age with brown hair and glasses approach me. Hi, are you Cassie? He asked me nervously. Yeah, and you're Peter? It's very nice to meet you. We gave each other an awkward hug and decided to walk around the park for a bit. It was no effort at all to talk to Peter, and I quickly began to relax in his company. He was very funny and asked me if I'd been concerned about him being a maniac. I told him about Sarah's warning about meeting someone online. Don't worry, I didn't bring my axe. I couldn't fit it in the trunk of my car. He laughed and looked at me. After we had our coffee, we decided to skip dinner and have a couple of beers instead. Peter quickly became drunk and talked nonsense, and I laughingly pointed out that he was the worst lightweight I'd ever met. I swear, he rambled on. I normally never get this drunk off of one beer. I guess it's because it's been a long day. You know, I've looked forward to meeting you. So work felt like an eternity today. I smiled and told him I'd felt the same way. It soon became clear that I had to take Peter home after he'd had a couple of beers. I didn't mind helping him find his way home, and it's not like I was already going to sleep with him or anything. I just felt it was the only right thing to do. He lived a couple streets from the bar, and with me supporting most of his weight, we finally got there. Peter kept missing the keyhole, so I took the keys from him and let us inside. He almost fell onto the floor, but managed to stumble through the small apartment and land in the bed. I couldn't help but laugh a little and close the door. I made sure it was locked before I walked into the bedroom. Peter had trouble keeping his eyes open, but I was sure he saw me pull the rope and butterfly knife from my big purse. His eyebrows almost disappeared under his hair as he saw me get ready for business. I know you didn't expect this. Most of you guys never do. But it's just way easier to find people online. Besides, who'd ever be afraid of a small woman in a cute dress with flowers on it? Now, you've learned that you probably should have been, but it's way too late for that. I smiled at him with my pearly white teeth as he tried to scream through his sedated state. I couldn't help but laugh at his patheticness and got to work. I shaved my legs, bought new shoes, and did laundry. Dating can be hard. I'd been out of the game for so long, trying to focus on myself, but I got desperate and decided that OK Cupid was back on the table. At first, I basically swam through a sea of unsolicited pictures and threats when I refused to send my own, but eventually found a few men that seemed nice. Not nice guy nice, but genuinely nice. Anyways, I guess I'll give you a background. I had a boyfriend who was great for a while, but he became terribly abusive. But you know how it goes, right? You get stuck in those, and I was stuck in it for a while. Until the day the police came to my door to tell me that he had been found dead. Presumably, drug deal gone wrong, based on location and evidence on his phone. Even still, they considered me a suspect. I understood though. That always happened when a victim had been in a relationship. But after a few months, they gave up questioning me and let me finally be fully free for the first time in years. Although, I decided to leave town. Anxiety kinda took over my life, and the idea of dating and what could come after became terrifying. And Catholic guilt didn't do me any favors. So 5 years later, my bio consisted of all, I'm fat and I'm crazy, but at least I'm nice. You gotta warn someone, you know? Relieves the guilt of sin just enough for me to enjoy myself. But Nick was beautiful, and had me immediately with the whole "did it hurt" line. What can I say? I'm a sucker for cliches. So by the time 8 o'clock rolled around, I was sexy as I could make myself, and ready to get back out there. He picked the restaurant, a not too fancy Italian place with live music. Seemed nice enough. He looked the same as he did in his pictures, aside from definitely being a little shorter. But hey, who am I to judge? "You don't look fat or crazy," was the first thing out of his mouth. What a charmer. "Well, don't you look lovely yourself?" My southern accent rang. We had casual small talk basically the whole night, but I felt the tension rising, and I knew when I saw him slip something into my drink that he felt it too. And when my eyelids started fluttering and my legs were wobbling, he decided that a much less fancy hotel was in our future. He carried me to the car. Again, what a charmer. Turns out he already had checked into the hotel this morning, so nobody had to see us sneak into the elevator up to our second floor room. We all know how the story ends, right? I fall back into the cycle of abuse because of my desperate need for affection. Or, I realize dating really isn't for me, and start posting about how all men are the same. And in reality, they are. But I don't mind as much as you would think. Anywho, back to what I can remember. He laid me in bed and gave me that look. My eyes were closing, but I could still hear him. You don't seem too crazy, you know? And I like fat. You really think I'm not crazy? How sweet. I opened my eyes just enough to see a new look of confusion come over his face. Shouldn't I be out by now? I had taken a lot of the drugs, hadn't I? Too bad I'd be incriminating myself by apologizing to the woman at the table next to us, who ended up drinking my wine instead. It's okay though. I saw the rings on her, and her date's fingers. He's probably taking good care of her right now. Unless that was a double affair. In which case, there will be a lot of explaining for those two. So really, it's not the drugs that make me forget the best part of the night. What can I say? Killing truly is my natural high. I will admit that it didn't go as smoothly as my first kill did, but those 5 years in hide mode I learned a lot about cleanup. So I'm not too worried about being considered a suspect again. Although, my execution wasn't as great as I wanted it to be. I'm not upset, because I was too excited. Can you blame a girl for having fun? I would love to say this was just some sort of justice, taking down the abusers, or something heroic like that. It isn't like that though. This guy just so happened to be an asshole. He really didn't seem very nice. I was gonna kill him anyways. But him being a terrible person worked out in my favor, I suppose, so I can't really complain. My name wasn't even on the hotel registration, so I'll just say a few Hail Marys and hope for the best. I've only just got back on OK Cupid. I've had some pretty grim experiences. There was the man who called himself an entrepreneur, who claimed to have invented perpetual motion and needed a place to crash for like a few months while he was laying low, hiding from the feds. There was the man who was handsome and kinda funny, who turned out to be trying to get over his ex-boyfriend by dating women for the first time in his life, and not enjoying it. There was, and I hate to remember this, but sometimes it replays in my head on particularly bad and miserable nights. The man who was revolted by the sensation, smell, and sight of his own cum, who, while taking the condom off after we'd finished, suddenly retched and spewed all over my nice clean sheets. I'd taken a break for a few months. I'd been obsessed with finding the perfect man, even though I knew that no one could possibly be perfect, and I'd just have to try and find pieces of perfection within flawed people. But the effort was draining, and I was starting to feel depressed about how many men I was going through in my quest. I felt hollow and exhausted. I think I was starting to hate myself, so I decided to take a little break. This weekend, in a bout of loneliness and horniness, I decided to get back on the app. I wound up drunkenly texting with someone on Friday night, and we arranged to have dinner that very next evening. We arranged to meet at one of those ridiculous upmarket hipster ramen joints, and when I saw him sat at the table, as I walked in, my heart sang. It was his eyes. He had these big, beautiful blue eyes that were expressive and sparkling. They were framed by long, long black lashes that gave him a seductive air. We chatted. We flirted. We were ironic with one another, and honest the next moment. He listened to me and asked me questions about myself. You'd be amazed how infrequently men ask questions on dates. Touched his toes to my ankles under the table. We had shared a dessert, and those big blue eyes sparkled as I spooned tiramisu between his lips. I knew I had to take him home with me. We ended up kissing outside the restaurant. One of those wet, long, slow kisses that promise a good time with his body later. We got an Uber back to my place. This guy gave me such a sensation. I thought this might be it. This might be the one. The guy might have enough pieces of perfection in him to make a whole. When we got in, I pushed him playfully onto the sofa and we shared another kiss. Until I pulled back to go into the kitchen. I promised him wine and gave him a sexy smile. Those gorgeous blue eyes twinkling. I went into the kitchen and got everything ready on the sideboard. The chilled bottle of Sancerre, 2 wine glasses, some still-in-date olives on a dish, my rubber gloves, a scalpel, a circular saw, bleach, metal clamps, a chloroform rag, and so on. You know, the usual. Everything just felt like it was going swimmingly, until I heard behind me, "Good night." I didn't turn around. I just looked up and saw his reflection in the window glass. 2 gloved hands stretching between them. A garret. A mean expression in a man ready to do violence. And worst of all, those blue eyes darkened to something vicious. I grabbed the scalpel and jawed backwards, overarm just as he whipped the garret over my head. It sank deep into his right eye. He screamed and dropped the garret. Blood shot out and splattered my face. It was so ungentlemanly. I would never have expected it from the sexy, sensuous, witty man I had dinner with. My night was ruined. There was no thrilling foreplay, no lengthy lead-up to the final act. I just had to dispatch him quickly. Blender to the skull, after I'd use a paring knife to hamstring him. And those blue eyes I had such hopes for, ruined. I mean, I guess I could take the one I didn't stab, and add it to the collection. Everyone has a bit of perfection in them. But God, it's taking me so long to collect enough pieces to make the perfect man.